Good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, I guess. It's time runs away from us, kind of a little bit. Listen, I thought we'll take the opportunity, kind of today, as we are continuing on our journey towards the launch of the Rooming House Millionaire, to talk a little bit about the finance side of things. I've been getting lots of questions this week from clients and investors around the best way to provide finance for a rooming house project. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to kind of cover that in a slightly different way. Now, for those of you who, for some reason, don't know me yet, my name is Henry Villa. I'm actually the author of the Rooming House Millionaire. I also happen to be the managing director of a company called Stone Horizon, where we design, build, and operate kind of rooming houses for investors. But today we're going to be talking about the book and about kind of rooming houses more broadly. And we're going to be doing that in a, like I said, in a slightly different way, as we've covered the finance topic on a couple of events in the past, and we think it'll make a lot of sense to use some of that here. Now, before I go there, I have a little bit of an awkward thing to talk about. It's an awkward announcement. It's something that really surprised us overnight. And it's incredibly humbling. And it's these that you guys are seeing here. So the Rooming House Millionaire has actually made it to #1 in the bestseller list at Amazon. Which is kind of incredibly surprising, particularly because the book hasn't even officially been out for sale yet. It comes out on the 3rd of September, as you know, and we're going to have obviously a launch event here at Stone Horizon headquarters. We still have a few small slots. A few seats available into that event. Not too many though, only a couple. So if you are keen to come to the event in person, there might actually be an opportunity for you to do that. Just send me a message or leave a comment here, and either me or someone in my team will leave you the kind of the details. Of course, if you want to attend through the live stream, which we will put through Facebook and YouTube and a couple of the places, probably the place you're looking at this kind of now, then by all means also feel free to leave us a comment or send us a note, and we'll send you the kind of the details about that. Now back to finance, and it's going to be an interesting one today, because finance is one of those topics that we cover a lot. And last year we did a full presentation. I think it's about an hour presentation on how to finance kind of rooming houses. It was part of a live kind of event we were doing at the time, where quite a few investors kind of register and pay an amount of money to kind of go through a few of the kind of secrets and keys of how to do rooming house projects. And one of the particular chapters we were talking about was finance. Now, there's a particular section of that finance video, finance information, finance presentation that I thought it makes sense to cover today. It will make sense to kind of show you today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to travel a little bit in time, and I'm going to go to that event late last year for you to be able to cover and for you to be able to hear what I said at the time about financing rooming house projects, which is still very, very valid today. And then I'll be back to kind of put some closing comments and to wrap it up. So without further ado, here is a key secret strategy of how to finance your rooming house project. And then, of course, there's two other ways of financing to complete the six that we've been talking about. The first one is private lending. The great thing about private lending is that out of everything on this list, it's probably the one that has the best balance of flexibility and still keeping most of the returns, right? And what I mean by that is private lending, it doesn't really abide by the same rules that residential lending does, or sometimes even commercial lending does. It really depends on who the lender is and what is your business case put forward for this lender. Private lending comes from the same sort of school that private equity comes in the business world, where you're basically borrowing money from either a family office or some kind of high net worth individuals. And you're going through an entity or through a body that obviously it's there to have a process and to be able to channel these funds and put them into projects that are going to provide good return. But you have a whole bunch of flexibility around how those returns get achieved. Therefore, you can be a lot more creative about what you can finance and how you finance. I know at the moment we have probably 4 of our clients using private lending to get them to the point where these properties are completed as a segue to get them to long-term commercial finance, where they're going to be able to take most of their cash out and then be able to redeploy that money into their next project. So again, private lending, super, super flexible. It's one of my favorite tools when everything else fails. However, private lending has certain limitations, let's call them. It comes at a price. And I'm talking, it quite literally comes at a price. Private lending, it's probably the second most expensive way of financing a project after maybe equity, right? And what I mean by that is interest rates on financial lending are significantly higher than residential, sometimes significantly higher than commercial. And they're higher because the money that is being put to you comes from a source that demand a higher return. Right? A lot of the commercial and residential lending that we've seen comes from funding sources that are relatively low cost. It's people's savings, superannuation funds, even loan securitization, and some of those really, really complex financial instruments that get transacted in Wall Street. Private lending is mostly money coming from private individuals, and those individuals demand a higher return. And because they demand a higher return, the interest rate tends to be higher. It's that simple, right? You're borrowing money from somebody, even though you might have an institution in the middle that facilitates the whole process, right? Now, that's not necessarily a terrible thing, because private lending tends to have a much shorter time span. You tend to have a much shorter duration of those loans. In fact, in the case of we and our customers, a lot of the time we use private lending to get people to the point where the property is completed and we can have a long-term lease in place with an operator, with all such operators, and get some cash flow going. So that way a normal commercial lending will revalue the property based on that long-term kind of finance. So because you're using this finance in a shorter period of time, the reality is the interest rate becomes a lot less important. I know in my case, I prefer, and it's more important to me, to work with the people who are going to give me the money to do the project rather than how much, the interest rate is going to go. It's no use to me having a 3 or 4 or even 5% interest rate if the person or the institution that I'm doing lending with, it's going to be hard to deal with, or it's going to take a long time to get everything sorted, or it's just going to create, massive headaches along the way. Private finance has that as a beauty. So it's very, very common that we combine multiple of these things where we do private finance at the beginning, we build the property. Once the property is built, we refinance under commercial lending to have a stable, long-term, lower cost, finance solution in place. And there you go. Hopefully that was useful. I have a little bit more gray hair this year, I guess, than what we had last year. But the conversation and the information is still as relevant today as it was in that presentation last year ago. A lot of that it's kind of covered here in the Rooming House Millionaire on chapter 5, which is the finance chapter, where we provide a bit of an overview of all the alternatives. There are 6 different ways of financing kind of a rooming house. You saw me there talking about one of our favorite ones, and obviously there's so many more here in the book. The book, as you saw already, now available at Amazon. We have actually thrown down the book as cheap as we can physically make it while still making it viable. So if you have a Kindle or an iPad, it's literally under $1 for you to get a copy of the book. The cheapest that Amazon allows us to sell us while still being a book. And then if you want a physical copy of the book, then you can order in Amazon if you want. We're making it as cheap as chips. I think for this first print run, I think it's probably going to be under $15 at launch, although I think it's about $20-25 on kind of pre-sale. But also, why don't you come along? To our launch event? If you come here in person, if you're lucky enough to come here in person, most people who come here will probably get a copy of it, or at least your chances of winning one will be kind of much higher. You might even get a quick message from me in the book. Anyway, once again, my name is Henry Villa. I'm the author of The Rooming House Millionaire, the book that is launching on the 3rd of September, the only book you need to read to be able to start your rooming house kind of investment journey. This has been an overview of financing around your rooming house. Hopefully that's been useful. We'll be covering so much more of this between now and the launch of the event. But for now, I'll let you get back to your evening, and I hope to see many of you very, very soon.